It is Humans TV Africa you are watching. You're watching us live here at Humans TV Africa. We are a registered non-government organization registered to do media work. As I speak, we have studios in Uganda, Kenya. We have studios in Ghana, Nigeria. We have studios in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, UK, and the US. And we continue growing every day. Our work is to empower our people, to educate, to inform, and to liberate the mindset of our people. Our work is to protect the rights of the vulnerable, especially the marginalized people in Africa. And these rights are not negotiable. We defend homosexuals, we defend albinos, we defend prostitutes, we defend women, we defend men, we defend children, we defend all the marginalized people in Africa. If your power is being taken away, if your rights are being taken away, Humans TV Africa is the defender of those rights. My name is Katom Mukasa. I'm a lawyer by training and by profession. And my work is to do advocacy. And Humans TV Africa is the vehicle through which we do this advocacy. Today, we talk about homosexuality. We talk about the laws that actually focus on gay people in Africa and how these laws are blind, how these laws are bad. A focus on anti-homosexuality laws in Africa, episode 5. Episode 5. Walk with me through episode 5. I'm going to show you two important videos. Two videos will make a conclusion before I give you my piece of opinion. Have a look at these videos.
Bank freezes loans to Uganda over anti-LGBTQ law. It sounds like a win for human rights, but could it actually make matters worse for some Ugandans? Welcome to the flip side. Uganda's new Anti-Homosexuality Act imposes capital punishment for aggravated homosexuality and 20 years in prison for promoting homosexuality. It's been widely condemned by human rights organisations and now, it seems, by the World Bank too. For some context, the bank has an existing project portfolio of $5.2 billion in Uganda. It goes to everything from supporting smallholder farmers, refugees, healthcare and entrepreneur support. So it seems unlikely that this decision will have a direct impact on Uganda's political elite, who make the laws. Rather, ordinary Ugandans, especially the LGBTQ community who face big challenges like unemployment, homelessness and exclusion from health services, are more likely to bear the brunt. And most Ugandans aren't thrilled about the news.
We are not prepared for this. We did not know that the LGBT law, the passing of the law, would really plug the country into this type of dire situation.
I feel like it's unfair to outrightly cut us out just because we cannot put up with their beliefs and what they believe in, because we come from different backgrounds and we're entitled to practice our own customary beliefs.
World Bank should not think that we, being of the third world as they consider us to be, we shall go against our values of our culture to bend below them or to bow before them.
It's not the first time that Western actors have been accused of moralistic finger-wagging or even hypocrisy. In response to the World Bank's decision, Uganda's Minister for Foreign Affairs said, "In the US, many states have passed laws that are either against or restrict activities of homosexuality. So why pick on Uganda?" This doesn't automatically make the World Bank a watchdog for human rights either.
It will inevitably, as any institution, have its own perspective on what are good human rights conduct and what are bad human rights conduct. And that's not really what the World Bank should be doing. That's the job of the UN. And also each society has to make those decisions for itself.
But some activists are optimistic that there is still a silver lining here for Uganda's LGBTQ community.
The reaction from the World Bank cannot do anything worse. In fact, we are seeing the opposite. We're seeing more concern from government for the well-being of LGBTQ persons.
So the World Bank's decision might not be what it seems, but time may tell where the LGBTQ Ugandans actually reap some benefits. And that's the flip side.
That is the flip side. The question is, would World Bank's decision to cut aid to Uganda help? I don't think so. I think World Bank is misguided. I should say World Bank is using the wrong approach to fight for the rights of good people. I repeat, World Bank is using the wrong approach to fight for the rights of gay people in Africa. It's not your business to cut aid. You target the politicians, not the people. World Bank, that is a misguided step. It's wrong. I don't agree with World Bank. Have a look at the next video.
Continent, which include political, religious, and community leaders, often claim that homosexual practices are an important Western evil. So many cases are triggering heated debates around gay rights on the African continent, where homosexuality has become a decisive issue. So why is Africa such a difficult place for the LGBTQ+ community? Scholars say there are many reasons, which include colonial laws and religious morality. But is that the only reason? This week we spotlight on this sensitive societal topic that has been making headlines recently.
In January this year, Edwin Chiloba, a 25-year-old Kenyan fashion designer and a model, was found dead by the side of a road outside the Rift Valley town of Eldoret in western Kenya. Immediately after Chiloba's death, rights activists demanded for speedy investigations. The activists suspected that it was a hate-instigated attack on LGBTQ+ people. The death created a buzz the world over until the suspects were apprehended and taken to court. Chiloba was an LGBTQ+ rights activist, and his death has sparked a conversation that is considered taboo and highly sensitive. Fast forward to months later, a ruling by Kenya's Supreme Court allowing registration of LGBTQ associations was hailed as a step forward in gay rights. But homosexual relations are illegal in Kenya, and one lawmaker, after the court's verdict, began pushing a bill in Kenya's parliament to increase the maximum punishment for anyone found guilty to life in prison, in some cases even death. President William Ruto also voiced his concerns publicly.
Katika taifa letu la Kenya, tuko na mila.
I want to tell you all that in Kenya we have traditions, we have cultures, we respect our constitution, all the religions. We cannot allow women to marry fellow women or men to do the same. This is not possible here in Kenya, so do not worry. It can happen elsewhere, but not in this country.
Members of the LGBTQ community are facing discrimination, hate, and violence because of who they are and who they love across Africa. In Kenya, much like the rest of Africa, gay sex is a criminal offense, and it is punishable by up to 14 years in jail. And it is not only discriminatory laws that are criminalizing LGBTQ individuals and putting a target on their backs across the continent. In Ghana, security forces raided and shut down the office of an LGBTQ rights group in the capital, Accra, after politicians and religious leaders called for its closure. They later advocated for an anti-gay law to be passed in parliament last year. Many leaders and politicians in the continent often use the Western card to blame the prevalence of the practice in Africa.
This is a very nuanced debate. It's important that people do speak out internationally in support of marginalized communities within Africa, but at the same time, we need to do everything we can to support African LGBTQ+ campaigners so that they can counteract that narrative.
Uganda went further with a new anti-homosexuality bill that was introduced in Parliament. It proposes new penalties for same-sex relations. The bill is being sent to the committee for scrutiny before it will be debated in the Parliament.
But when you speak to the individual MPs, they will tell you that across the country there is an outcry of homosexual-related issues, recruitment, promotion in schools. Our children are being recruited into this immoral act, and there is a public concern.
But why is there so much dissent in the continent towards the LGBTQ communities? And what are the dangers or repercussions if governments push ahead with criminalizing gay sex or relationships?
When LGBTQ plus people are criminalized, there are very clear dangers in that they can be targeted by the authorities. So that is a real problem. They can face imprisonment, and the laws in Uganda are particularly draconian. But there are also other aspects that we need to bear in mind. So, for example, when LGBTQ plus people are criminalized, they can, for example, become subject to blackmail, or they can be targeted by criminal gangs. So that's a secondary component. And thirdly, it makes it more difficult for LGBTQ plus people to access healthcare.
South Africa is an outlier on the continent, as LGBTQ rights are enshrined in its constitution. Nevertheless, violence against queer people is still rife in the country. Activists say it is high time for African countries to reassess their positions and take action to protect marginalized, victimized, and often criminalized LGBTQ communities. Bureau Report, We Own World is One.
Girl, just say girl, I don't care.
That is it. We have seen what's happening in Africa. We end with South Africa, which is an outlier, but still, gay people are not that safe in South Africa, even when their constitution, their laws favor them. I'm a Ugandan. I have worked with gay people since 2007. I'm a lawyer. I'm an economist. I've trained gay people not only in Uganda, in Kenya, in Rwanda, in Ghana. I've gone to Ghana, I've gone to Tanzania, I've gone to Kenya, I've gone to Rwanda, I've gone to these countries. So I talk about things I know. I've interacted with guys who I've seen on the TV. Frank Mugisha there from Uganda are speaking, and I know the plight of gay people in Africa. Now, having said that, Kenya has a pastor president who's pushing his agenda. Uganda has a dictator who's pushing his agenda to stay in power. Politicians like Baswaliwa are pushing an agenda to keep them relevant. They will tell you homosexuals are recruiting in the schools. You ask them which school, they cannot tell you. Which children, they cannot tell you. Which organizations recruiting, exactly who's recruiting, how, they cannot tell you. But they'll go on TV and say they are recruiting, they are training homosexuals. It's a big problem in the country. These are thieves. These politicians are corrupt. They are thieves. They are finding ways to justify their corruption. They are finding ways to keep in power. How does the politician win the next vote in Africa? It is by painting a picture that they are holy, they are so religious, they are so straightforward, they are working for the values, moral values of society. This is how Museveni has kept himself in power for 38 years, deceiving people that is pro-African values, pro-African culture. Homosexuality is a tool used by African dictators, African politicians to keep themselves in power. I was in Ghana. I talked to homosexuals in Ghana. I was in Tanzania. I was in Kenya. I was in Rwanda. I've interacted with homosexuals in these countries. I'm a Ugandan lawyer who has seen the plight of homosexuals in Africa. And I tell you, World Bank is making a mistake to remove the aid. When you remove the aid, it is the homosexuals that suffer. It is the poor Ugandan that suffer. And the more they suffer, they think you are promoting the agenda. So there's no way you can say you're not promoting an agenda when you are cutting off aid. It becomes contradictory. You simply have to target the politicians, not the people who receive the donations. Target the politicians. Let's look at the slides we have prepared for this show, and we have a look at more of what we have for you. Laws in Ghana, for example. In Ghana, the law is that the law here is a statement I want to read for you. We are deeply disturbed by the shocking news out of Ghana, where a bill criminalizing the identification as LGBTQI has just been passed. This regressive legislation further violates and threatens the very existence of people that are gay in Ghana. And of course, this is an engagement in political speech. It curtails that and supports equal rights. And of course, discrimination promotes discrimination and equal rights. And of course, people of it is against people because of their sex orientation and gender. This bill will put someone in prison for up to 3 years for those who identify as gay people. And of course, a staggering 5-year term for those who are formed or fund LGBT groups. If you have an NGO and maybe it is pathetic to LGBT people, gay people, it's going to be 5 years for you in Ghana. Now, this one is a violation to the expression, to the rights to expression of people in Ghana. 5 years for you as an NGO, 5 years for you for protecting gay people, and 3 years for a person who identifies as a gay person in Ghana. And of course, in Uganda and Kenya, LGBT gay people status is criminalized. And of course, now Ghana has followed suit. And of course, I've been telling you that these laws were from Britain. Ghana, Kenya, Uganda were occupied, were colonized by the British. And the British gave us their damn laws. And these laws are now being used against our people in Africa. Our client, Frank Mugisha, reminds us that it's the Western homophobia that is un-African, not gay people. Exactly. It is the West African homophobia that is un-African, not homosexuality. Homophobia came from the Western countries. Europe. Homophobia was introduced in Africa by laws that were brought by Europeans to Africa. I've been saying that. President Akufo-Addo in Ghana, approval, we call upon him to reject this bill. Then let us look at other screens. Shots, I won't read everything. I will not read everything. Facts about the bill. This bill in Ghana criminalizes anyone identifying as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, and pansexual. An ally and anyone advocating, supporting, or fundraising for these groups. Remember, it's against the African Charter. It's against even the Constitution of Ghana, because as you can see, a person shall not be discriminated against by Chapter 5 of Ghana right then. There's a duty to report people and promote the bill. This includes parents, guardians, educators, religious institutions, media, creative arts. All of them are supposed to report a gay person. It means the country Ghana has become a state police policing gay people. Everyone must report a gay person. Now, this is wrong. Remember, these laws are colonial laws. These are colonial laws from Britain that are left in Africa, and these rulers in Africa, these dictators in Africa, these politicians in Africa are using these very same laws which Britain has now abandoned. Prison sentences are about 12 months to 3 years of fines. Anyone involved or affirming to be homosexual. Prison years between 3 to 5 years for funding, sponsoring, promoting prohibited activities. For anyone organizing or facilitating a group involved in supporting, promoting, sustaining, providing individuals in gay acts, supporting them, you are going for jail for 5 years. This is Ghana. Uganda is even worse. Let us look at Uganda. Let us look at other, of course, sentences between 5 to 10 years. For simply, it is simply for promotion of or advocacy via social media. If you go to social media and talk about homosexuality in Ghana, you are likely to be imprisoned for 5 to 10 years. You can imagine the punishment is even more in terms of promotion. You have gone to our Twitter, you have gone to our Facebook, you have gone to WhatsApp and promoted homosexuality, you will be imprisoned for 10 years in Ghana. So we call upon President Nana Akufo-Addo to rise up above partisan politics in Ghana. Please don't be a populist. Please honor your integrity as a human rights legal profession. Reject this bill. We call upon the president of Ghana to please refuse to sign this bill. Reject it. On 6th of March, Ghana's Independence Day, we're also asking to honor the spirit of founding fathers who fought against oppression and for freedom and justice in Ghana. Please do not sign this bill into law. The African Charter on Human Rights says every individual shall be entitled to the enjoyment of their rights and freedoms recognized and guaranteed in the present charter without distinction of any kind. African Charter, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda as signatories follow the African Charter. Look at the mandates in Uganda. This pastor here puts on and pretends to be an angel, saying no to homosexuality, lesbianism, gay. These are the pastors in Uganda. They are all influenced by American politics and politicians and churches. Here is this minister, a trade was making noise in Parliament. May 2020, Uganda passed the anti-homosexuality bill into law. And this is what the bill says in Uganda. Here is the law in Uganda. I'm going to give you a summary. In Uganda, the law against gay people is like this. Person convicted of homosexuality, aggravated homosexuality, goes for death. They call it aggravated homosexuality, goes to death. Number 2, a person who commits the offense of homosexuality is imprisoned for 20 years. Ghana talks about 3 to 5 years. Uganda talks about 20 years for Uganda. Now, a person convicted of promoting homosexuality is 20 years. Now, if you are an NGO, a lawyer like me, or an advocate, a human rights activist, and they say you are promoting homosexuality, they are going to imprison you for 20 years. 20 years in Uganda, say a lawyer like me, for speaking out. 20 years. Now, another thing about Uganda's law is person recruiting children into homosexuality is 20 years. If you are recruiting children into homosexuality, the law says 20 years. Person who has committed the attempted aggravated homosexuality goes for 14 years in Uganda. A person who has been convicted of attempted homosexuality goes for 10 years. You can imagine what is attempted homosexuality, but it will go there for 10 years. Now, the other thing is the owner of premises that promotes homosexuality goes for 10 years. Now, if you have a hotel, maybe you have a bar, homosexuals went there, they kissed. Maybe you have a hotel, they were found there in your hotel, in your lodge, they are going to imprison you for 10 years. Now, children found guilty of homosexuality will go for 3 years. And then a media house that publishes material that promotes homosexuality will be fined by 1 billion and the license will be revoked. If you're a TV station, you're a newspaper, you're a radio, and you talk about homosexuality in a positive way, the fine is 1 billion Uganda shillings. That is Uganda for you. That is Uganda for you. Of course, President Joe Biden on the 30th May 2023, and you issued a press statement in which you opposed the anti-homosexuality law in Uganda. Let us continue as we wind up this show. Now, of course, we condemn Ghana's anti-LGBTQI bill. We condemn that in Uganda. We condemn every law as Science TV Africa that is against human rights. People in the UK, in London, have been protesting this week, against the laws in Ghana, the laws in Uganda, and the coming law in Kenya. People in the UK are protesting. Africans in the UK are protesting against these laws in Uganda, Kenya, and of course, Uganda, Kenya, and of course, Ghana. We stand for equal rights. Amnesty International says we stand for equal rights. Amnesty International says we are all humans, all equal. We've always been here. African homosexuality, African sexuality, and the legacy of imported homophobia. Homosexuals have been always part of Africa. I've been saying that times without number. I've been saying that time without number. That homosexuality is part of Africa. Homophobia is not African. Homosexuality is part of Africa, but homophobia is not African. Stop hating gay people. Stop hating LGBT community. LGBT people are the ordinary Ghanaians, ordinary Ugandans, ordinary Kenyans, ordinary Africans. Those are gay people. They are like you, normal human being like you. Homosexuality is human, but homophobia is un-African. This is my statement. And of course, this is a statement from Ghana too. Homosexuality is human, but homophobia is not human. Homosexuality is African. It's human to be homosexual, but homophobia, hating people and killing them, imprisoning them, is not African. Some people are gay. Get Over It is my book. I'll end with right here. You see this book with me, and that's the book right there. Go to Amazon, put in Katon Mukasa, put in the title, Some People Are Gay, Get Over It. Get your copy of a book I have authored about homosexuality, laws, biases, and prejudices in Africa, and how to end it. You need my book. You need this book. Support us by buying a copy of this book. Thank you so much for watching. It has been Humans TV Africa. Our work is promoting rights of all people that are marginalized: prostitutes, albinos, women, youth, young mothers, homosexuals, anyone that is underprivileged, anyone whose rights are being taken. Humans TV Africa is going to come and say, stop there. These people deserve their rights. Thank you so much for watching. Share, like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one.